Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining me. Hope you're well. So, going to talk about a few bits tonight. Someone give me a sound check there if you can. I'll keep an eye out for it. But yeah, thanks for joining me. I want to talk about today's events a little bit. Just kind of go over what I like doing the most, going over casual videos, the day's events, and just kind of watching it. I haven't even seen all this stuff today. Most of it I have. But one of those things where we just go over a bit of like Twitter material and I'll kind of ramble away about it. So I want to talk about the stopping of migrant plantation centres across Ireland. Today it was in Ballyogan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. I'm not from Dublin. I've never been there. So there was that. We'll watch videos on that. It was mad. There's a video from that that's especially, I mean, it's exciting stuff, content. So stick around for that. And also Clonmel, there was also kind of some sort of argy-bargy happening there as well with a massive construction site. So we'll go through some stuff about that. Then I want to talk a little bit, casually enough, no big, huge thing, about this idea of like fake candidates in Ireland, fake nationalist populist candidates. I say in Ireland, this could be any country, any country at all. The phenomenon of like democracy, and again, just a casual little, shoot the breeze on it. The phenomenon of Western liberal democracies and how sort of set up they are, and how much that sets up a permanence of a deeper state and a deeper power structure, because of course democracy can be always altered and changed. There are many facets to this to suit the powers that be. It's very hard to have a democratic insurgency, and it's almost like the institutions are set up and the system is set up, and all money and power and influence and all of that kind of has this trap door to always sort of adjust the situation as they please, because they kind of have infinite money and infinite media power in a sense to kind of confuse and muddle things just at the last moment. You know, you see this in France a lot. You see it all over Europe. Post World War II liberal democracies were largely designed in this way. But even beyond that, again, the power of just media and the sort of information control matrix and the fragility of the average person in terms of information, like how low information the average person, like a lot of people anyway, not all, but just a lot of people are low on information. They don't have much time. I never checked if I was okay. I assume sound is fine, but yeah, a lot of people don't have time or the interest or the inclination. They're just not made that way. They're not interested. It's kind of one of the flaws in a way of not democracy in spirit, but democracy in practice. That, like, you know, look, someone shoves up a load of posters, and you know, it's a silly thing, and it's easily messed with. And I suppose I shouldn't bother getting into it now. That's just like an intro. And what finally do I want to talk about? Oh, just a little bit about how big this movement in Ireland is going internationally. Just a little remark on that at the end. All of these different people, massive globe, some of the biggest global online voices anyway, and just in general, who are commenting on Ireland. This idea of all eyes on Ireland. There was a debate the other night. Was it last night? It was the first RTE debate on the European elections. And I thought it was so funny because, for one, the candidates are all pre-selected through this kind of after the fact criteria where you have to have gotten a certain percent vote in previous elections, like 5 years ago. It's convoluted, but anyone with common sense can look at the formula and the criteria they designed for who gets to be on the debate stage. And it's quite obvious that it's designed in specific, because you can design anything to keep someone out. It reminds me of that. I think there was like a Simpsons joke back in the day where stupid or whatever, but it was like this guy shows up to a party or something, and Homer says, "No Steve's allowed. Sorry, it's not personal." And the guy is angry, and he goes, "Look, there's a sign. It says no Steve's allowed." And he points to a guy inside. He says, "That guy's in there." Another guy called Steve, and then Homer points back to the sign and says, "No Steve's allowed," like plural. Simpsons, I don't really like it. It's annoying, but it's the same idea. It's like, look, this is this after the fact criteria, just obviously designed to keep certain people out in specific. And it's like that in Ireland. So you have this debate where all of the people on there basically all agree. and it's almost like a non-debate. It's completely nonsense, even from an entertainment point of view. The fact that they're keeping actual opponents out of the debate ruins the debate as a debate, just full stop. And it creates this farcical sort of, I don't want to say Father Ted, but like this completely staid and stodgy atmosphere. I always say those two words: staid and stodgy atmosphere, where you're watching it and you're just thinking, this is like somewhere between Father Ted and a tin pot dictatorship or something like that. And then what follows from that is that the aesthetic of the show is bad. It, like I say, it's not just that I've a vested interest and I don't like it from my point of view. It just creates, and from an objective point of view, a bad debate, an incoherent debate where it's hard to see where anyone really disagrees, and where they do, it's a contrived disagreement, and thus it's boring. And then following from that, like the amount of corruption in RTE, for those who aren't Irish, if there's any of you there, RTE is the state broadcaster in Ireland, taxpayer funded. And the quality of the show is just so bad. That's how I feel about it. Like they get hundreds of millions in revenue every year. They're really bad. They have hundreds of millions in forced taxpayer revenue, and they do lots and lots of ads, which, as far as I know, BBC in England, Britain, they someone's laughing because I say the word comprador all the time. Look, there's only so much vocabulary out there, and it is what it is. But they have so much money, and they take ads anyway. And you would think that like that would create a good show. No, it's a small channel. It's not broadcasting to that many people, but you have a lot of money, and yet the show is always just kind of crap. The quality, the set, it's bad. You get good stuff in most other countries, really, in across Europe and America and that kind of thing. They have plenty of money to do that here, surely, and they don't. So you have a fake debate with a kind of crap, like weak kind of looking set. And there was this video of Year One picking out. So the people contesting or taking part in this debate are pre-selected, but she was doing this kind of raffle draw type of thing, pulling out names at random to determine who gets to stand where on the stage, some silly stuff like that. And she was taking like little clippings of paper. So you print off a sheet of paper with the names on it, and then you just, with a scissors or a scalpel, cut the slivers of paper, puts them in this glass bowl that looks like it's from IKEA or something. And she's just kind of rooting around in it, pulling out these pieces of paper. And that, to me, it's a small thing, a small observation, but it just, it screamed like low effort and weakness to me. Where were the graphics? Where was the or some better mechanism than this bowl and pieces of paper? It just looked so crap, and that's how kind of bad and insular RTE and all this whole information network they have in Ireland. That's how weak and shite it is, right? Meanwhile, you have all these big names. I'll get into them in a while, including Conor McGregor in Ireland. He's obviously Irish, but people at his level, all sorts of international people, looking at it, and they're watching. I don't want to say they come on and watch my stream. I doubt they might have the patience for that, but they're watching Mick O'Keefe's Twitter. They're watching Keith Woods. They're watching Conor McGregor's tweets. They're just seeing the viral stuff coming out, and everybody's focusing on that. And whether it's on Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, they're watching it online. They have a lot to say about it, and that matters. So it's kind of, I love it. I love it. So that's kind of, that's a long intro, but so what did I say? Housekeeping. I wanted to mention, I have here the European Democracy Shield as well. I might mention that too. Maybe not though. But I don't know if I have super chats back. I ought to check it, because I got my letter in the post today. My letter with my 6-digit code that takes 2 weeks to get there, but and I did that, so I don't know if they're working. But if not, if you want to, you can support the channel in the links below. Follow me on social media, Twitter, Telegram, all the rest of it. And just one further piece of housekeeping as well that I want to mention is that I get commentary on this. Like, a lot of people will message. I'm just trying to check something up here. Sorry. A lot of people will message me or put in the comments that they like the streams, they love the rambles, whatever. Mixed views, obviously, from different people. And you'll get a certain amount of people, small enough, but they're there. People who seem to want quicker, faster information. Don't lose the message in all the rambling and all that. Okay, there's no super chats, whatever. I'll figure that out. But they just want it to be different than what it is, and whatever. That's not really going to happen. But it got me thinking that there are people who maybe they might not like the medium, they might not like how I do it. That's fine, if it's not for someone. But some people say, well, you make great points, but you will kind of go tangentially around the place. And so, like, there's little nuggets being lost in there. And it got me thinking, like, well, that's what clipping is for. I've seen other content creators encouraging it, and I'm just going to do the same here. It's not that I expect someone to go out of their way necessarily. There's no obligation on anyone to do anything. But if you're the type of person who's sitting there and you think, oh, there was a great 2-minute nugget there, but then you went all over the place here and there and everywhere, I can't post a 2-hour video to someone just to make that point. Well, if that is an issue for you, then you can do something positive. If that is where your mind is at, you can go on Save From or one of these clipping things, download the video, then put it into a quick trimming editor app, take the 2 minutes and post it online. I'd be delighted. I would repost it. I would consider it a favor. But so and some people wouldn't want to do it because they feel like it's stealing my stuff or whatever. Just to make it clear that that's not the way I see it. I would consider it a massive favor, not the opposite. So anyway, so with that all said, let's look at some videos, lads. Let's just watch a load of videos and see what's gone on today. So, like I mentioned, Bally. Oh wait, how should I start this actually? Should I go back to my tabs are the wrong way around. That's what they are. So I'm going to move that over here. I wasn't going to stream tonight. I set this up last minute. Someone mentioned it to me on Twitter to go live, and I just kind of fickle. So I said, okay. So I didn't get much time. There we go. Yeah, because I want to start on Clonmel. Okay, so we'll just go through it. So the first thing I saw today was these attack dogs, right? So big German Shepherds in Clonmel. And we'll watch more video now. But they brought these attack dogs in a van, this Northern Irish, or maybe it was Derry. I don't know. I don't want to get sectarian about it. But so there's these like foreigners and then these people from way up north, security kind of teams and construction workers being brought in to do whatever they were doing. And they brought German Shepherds with them. Now, I don't know what the law is there. Are private security allowed to use them? I've heard that they're not, which I don't understand why you bring a dog in a cage if you can't do anything with them. It's kind of funny to think about, actually, if that were true. But anyway, they bring what seem to be, unless someone just has dogs in their van, attack dogs. So now we're at potential, and the guards will bring this in as well before long. So we have pepper spray, we have PSNI water cannons being brought down from Belfast. They haven't been used yet. We have pepper spraying women in the face outside their front door in Newtown Mount Kennedy, and now we have dogs. And it just occurred to me like that these people are protesting, resisting at this massive center where there's millions being made, and it's this government agenda. I'm always harping on this government agenda that 80% of people are against. It's only for gumbeans. It's only for international institutions. It's a disgrace. La la la. So that's what it is. And so the people resisting it aren't just, it's not like someone who's just parked themselves outside a supermarket because they don't like the supermarket's produce and they're being a real nuisance. I mean, that person ought to be, I suppose, cleared because they don't really have a valid, like, you have constitutional rights to protest, but I believe that those rights should be sort of on a scale. If someone's just being a lunatic and it's disconnected from any public sentiment, it's sort of relative, isn't it? But then on the flip side, if you're protesting against something that's inciting the whole country to be interested in this stuff, it's the top political issue. Peacefully inciting is what I mean there, obviously. It's happening all over the country, one place after another. Of course, then it's not simply that you have a constitutional right to protest and there are technicalities to that you can go back and forth on. It's that it's extremely valid. It's not just some vague constitutional assertion. It's that, listen, on just a common sense human level, to whether it's guards you're talking to or anyone else, we have a right to be here beyond constitutions and anything else, just in a common sense, justice-based point of view. We at least have a right to be here, to picket, blockade, and sort of within the law interrupt this thing going on that nobody asked for, nobody wants, and we have no other avenues to protest it. We would like to take it to a town hall. That isn't in play, so we've no other option. So we're here, and what I'm saying is that if take a Xi Jinping or a Putin or some random guy in Mongolia, a goat herder, any like person outside looking in, if they were to evaluate the whole situation, I gave them a 1 hour intro and I said, here's what's going on. Are these people being obnoxious and antisocial and breaking the law? And, are they totally outside of civilized or rightful and justifiable action here? Is what they're doing? Could you describe what they're doing as that? I think anyone from any culture would look at the whole situation if they were fully informed about it and say, no, they at the very least they should be there. I mean, that's totally fair. Again, beyond culture, beyond political views, it's just objectively fair. Um, and they have attack dogs put in cages, threatening them, and pepper spray and all the rest. And then I just thought, it just seems like an obvious thing, but when you think about it, it is actually galling afresh that while they're doing that, attack dogs, pepper spray, mass surveillance, then of the political wing of this resistance movement, let's say the political rhetorical base of it, which is what they call the so-called far right agitators. I may or may not be allegedly one of them. You'd have to ask Drew Harris. But they consider it kind of like the brain trust or the people who spread the information, and so they worry about that. So they say they're physically and digitally surveilling and monitoring. So all the money, and then all the NGOs, millions and millions, tens, hundreds of millions in NGOs and the media. If you add all that money up and consider that the level and the prioritization that they're willing to exercise to combat what I've just described as objectively a reasonable thing, actually. And it's not criminal. It's not someone who's being, nobody down at this centre in Clonmel protesting is some sort of exploiter or thug or sort of like what's the word? Like a reprobate, antisocial, nasty, bad person. Everybody is there for the right reasons, whether you agree with them or not. And yet they're willing to expend all of this state capacity on these people and violence, extreme breaking of rights. I mentioned it a second ago, but this monitoring of far right and all that kind of stuff. And we have files on people and we have this and that. And we're like multiple times the guards have mentioned in the newspaper, sent a message to say, we're waiting for one of them to slip up because they're managing to stay within the law, but we're primed and waiting for any of them to go outside the law, and then we'll grab them. Now, of course, any basic Western or civilized concept of the law that we're familiar with, that's a complete breach of rights. So it's a pre-crime. So I haven't committed a crime. You're watching me and you're wanting me to fall within the crime so that you can nab me up. For political speech. That's, you should be able to go to an ombudsman if all of, and the what is it, the civil rights NGO, state funded, Soros funded again, literally. If they were actually what they claim to be, you'd be able to go to them and say, hey, I've decent reason to believe that I am one of these people. I can provide you the evidence. I'm almost certain I don't have a smoking gun. May I apply to the guards and the intelligence services and all that? Because I haven't committed a crime. If I had, I would be in jail. I haven't committed a crime. I'm engaging in legal political discourse. And they're talking about this. So I think that's just totally off the rails. We saw what happened to Maurice McCabe and all these other scandals, Garda scandals. This actually dwarfs a lot of that in a way, if I were vindicated. And I'm only going by what Drew Harris openly says in the newspaper. So, hello, Ombudsman. Hello, Civil Rights NGO. Can we pursue this? And I want to get my file. I want to take it to court. I want disclosure and all of this. And I want the full file, unabridged, unadulterated, not burned and deleted. I want it all. And, you can't do that. So, my point is they expend so much on it and then you have so little rights and the cause is fair and just and not antisocial or unfair or bad. So I can't think of a better word. And they'll do all that. And I'm showing you here in the form of potentially angry attack dogs, right? Could you think of a more base form of political oppression than sicking dogs on people, right? How barbaric is that? And that's the case there. Meanwhile, foreigners who enter the country illegally, people always talk about illegal immigration, but these people are entering illegally. If you're from Georgia and Nigeria and you come here to seek asylum, just because the state rolls over and encourages it and lets you do it, I mean, the state lets you do it, but there's meant to be a difference between the law and the state, we're meant to believe. So just because the state just permits it, turns the other way and gives them a house and gives them stuff, that doesn't, it de facto makes it legal, but it doesn't actually make it a legal thing. These people are still coming into the country illegally, and it's also immoral. It's showing no regard to us as a nation state. It's showing no regard to me personally, to you personally, and it's all just for their own benefit. And they will stand there and watch us be oppressed by NGOs, attack dogs, the guards, the whole lot, become fifth-class citizens, oppressed people like a plantation from previous centuries in Ireland. They'll watch us be oppressed and our culture torn out and our rights and dignity taken away. And they will be handed all that free stuff and they won't say a thing about it, right? So it's very bad across the board. It's illegal and it's immoral, in my point. They do that flagrantly in Dublin Airport and iPass all over the place every day. And where are the attack dogs? Where are the dogs at Dublin Airport to be like, you're Georgian, you're applying for asylum, get him, Jimmy or whatever to the dog, right? There's none of that. There's no, oh, you shouldn't be here. You're camping outside the iPass centre. We've asked you to leave. You're at the canal. We've asked you to leave. We don't want to put up another fence. We've asked you to just go. And the migrants say, I'm not going anywhere. I no go anywhere. I talk to NGO. I had no my rights and all this kind of stuff, right? You don't see a guard go, leave now, with the stormtrooper outfit on and in the face. They don't do any of that, right? It's all rights galore. I played a video the other week. This was one of my favorite bits I've done in ages. I went through this article in some stream a few weeks ago of this guy who was arrested in Cork for robbing bikes, who was obviously in the country illegally. They couldn't figure out who he was. They spent time trying to figure out who he was. He had all the legal support and all these rights that were totally sacrosanct. And when they did finally fingerprint him and find matches across Europe, they found that he had something like 17 or 27 identities. Now, he's here. He's robbing bikes. He's here illegally. He's basically saying fuck you to the guards. He's saying fuck you to everyone, right? And he's sitting there with rights galore. Where's the pepper spray? Where are the dogs? Where's any of this? Think of the illegal immigration and the protest against it are connected. Obviously, the two are interrelated, or one follows the other. But just think of the gap in rights and the treatment of these two things. The guards will deem the protest to be illegal. They might technically say, oh, at this point, it's a breach of property rights and contracts and all this kind of stuff. Whether you agree with that or not, they can, okay, fair enough. Let's say you grant they find a premise that this protest has now become illegal in black and white in law. They will escalate to full on police state. And yet with these migrants, it's illegal from day one with them. Day one, even better. Here's one. Why don't they go to these politicians and profiteers who are facilitating it? All this underhanded, white collar sort of criminality there. Why don't they kick in those doors? Some illegal, like a legal firm that's representing asylum seekers, and it's kind of half an NGO, it's half a legal representation thing. But how many of these things are connected directly into sort of that's human trafficking as it is, but how many of them are connected into straight up seedy classic human trafficking orgs and rings and all of this, right, where children are being abused? If the guards wanted to put their little bits of surveillance and their monitoring that they spend on far right, if they could very quickly find that. All you have to do is walk around inner city Dublin, Gardner Street, Parnell Street, you walk around there, you don't have to be a guard, you don't have to have any surveillance, you barely need to look left or right, you can see it all around you, it's totally obvious. And of course, a lot of these little towns with so many of these mysterious foreigners around the place too, clearly there's stuff going on there, and the interplay between them and the white collar or the NGO and the legal side, there's probably loads there. The guards could be kicking indoors with their dogs with the pepper spray. They're not. All their ire, all their power, speaking of dogs, they're puppies when it comes to all the worst stuff that's going on. And this is the anarcho-tyranny, a bit of a cliche to say, but they're puppies when that's going on. But then when you protested in your little town, powerless, no connections, no institutions, no anything, then the boot comes out, right? Then the boot comes out for you responding to their lack of enforcement or attention to the real problem. So that's just that's what those dogs made me think of. But so let's just look at now this stuff from Clonmel. So I'll just play the videos. I haven't really watched these, and it's not clear to me, even having kind of looked at them a bit, what exactly happened today, in Clonmel. But there was something.
I'm being nice.
Don't touch me.
Oh, yeah.
Don't touch me. Public land. Public land.
This is from New on Twitter. Great account.
I just spoke to the guards. I told them I was coming into public land, council-owned land. Your company does not own this land. This is council property, state land, public property. I can walk in here. I can record in here.
I'm going to close these gates now.
And where are you from? Obviously,
Derry.
Derry. And what are you doing down here?
What do you mean?
Why are you working down
Sure,
here?
I'm Irish.
Yeah, I know you're Irish.
So
Well, why would you travel the other end of the country to do this to a town?
That's a great point. So your man tries, whether he might be a Ulster or Scot for all we know, right? I don't. Who knows if he was trying to cover his tracks there, but maybe he is from Derry. Maybe he's like Irish, proper. Doesn't really matter. New Ada makes a great point because your man's trying to kind of black. What are you saying? What are you trying to be sectarian? Say I'm not welcome in my own country. But he makes a great, like your man tries to play that card on him, try to get some moral high ground. And again, New Ada is very good at it. One of the best I've seen on this. Top 5 in the country at live confrontational but interactions, heightened interactions, and yet keeping a calm and always having the right thought on hand, unaffected by the adrenaline of it or what the confrontation of it. Very good at that. But yeah, he's sharp as a tack here. He goes, no, I'm not. Basically, it's not a sectarian thing. It's that Derry is from what, the south, the tip. Derry must be a 4-hour drive or something like that. So you drove 4 hours. What is he, a security guy? Perhaps looks like, yeah. Why else would he be talking to him? So you're telling me you're security. So you're a man in a high vis vest. That's what you are, and you're telling me you need to drive almost the entire length of the country of Ireland to do that job. I mean, it goes to show you that they do need to bring in outsiders to do this. You know, the resolve and the willingness of people to participate in this is clearly crumbling.
What do you mean?
Why are you working down
Sure,
here?
I'm Irish.
Yeah, I know you're Irish.
So
Well,
what's
why would you travel the other end of the country to do this to a town?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
It's a job.
It's a job.
A job's a job.
Yeah, but
Job's a job.
I do, yeah. Do you know what's going to come from here? Do you know what's being put in here? No. Do you want to know? Do you want to know the results of what your actions are going to be here? Do you? Do you know what's defending this place, allowing this project to continue, one man, one woman at a time?
Stephen,
that's what you're doing.
Listen to this guy.
But he's engaging with me.
I'm talking to him, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm asking him to.
He doesn't need a father. He's a grown man. He's a grown man. He can do his speaking for himself. This is public property. Who would trespass me? The owner of the land would have to trespass me. Are you declaring ownership? Are you declaring ownership of public land?
Are you still harassing me with questions?
And it's not harassing
Can I
you.
explain
Yeah, this man is reasonable. Go on. Yeah. And I won't get your face.
It's a building site.
It's a public land,
Aye, but it's a building site.
but it's public land. Okay, so
It's a
according,
building.
yeah. Go on.
For health and
Go on,
safety,
sorry. Yeah.
I'm asking you to leave.
Okay, you're asking me, but I'm not breaking any law here.
I'm asking you because you could get hurt.
I could.
You could.
Yeah, and I would 100% accept that as the consequences of my actions,
That's
providing that injury does not come at the hands of anybody else.
It'll not come
Yeah.
from any of them stuff.
Yeah.
Because
And I'm not
I
saying,
won't allow it.
I'm not implying that because you're from the north you're not Irish. That wasn't the implication of what I'm saying. I'm saying, why would you travel here? We're in the belly of Tipperary here. Like,
Mate, we do all our work in the south end.
I know, but do you know what's coming in here, Stephen?
We do.
It is an iPass centre, which is 80.
Come on now. I don't know what, as if the guy doesn't know full well. Do you think he's standing there with all these crowds outside going to work and he hasn't said, if he hadn't already known long before, he hadn't kind of said to the lads on the road up, what's the story? Like, what's going on here? You know, plain thick.
Of a modular homes, you could fit at least 2 people in each. So if you fit 2 people, you have 160 IPAS, international protection applicants. They're predominantly coming from Nigeria, Algeria, Albania, Georgia, Zimbabwe, Afghanistan. So we could have 200, 300 if you fit 3 in each one. 300 Africans or Middle Eastern men coming in here. There's houses there. Children play just over that little wall. These boys are going to be sitting here, no way of making money, nothing to do all day, probably haven't seen a woman in months. Big, big problems. You're seeing this around the country already. There's people being raped, there's people being attacked, there's people being killed. And that.
But sure, a job's a job, you know what I mean? Once I'm getting my little cuppa of soup, once I get my little shot of soup, I'm happy. Because, you know, what can I do? I have to have my soup. So that was him. So there's more videos here. So this is Con Sheehan, and can I just say I'm kind of glazing everyone here, like giving everyone these fair dues. But excuse me, Con Sheehan, he's one of the lads down there, kind of on a regular basis at the site protesting. I believe a Clonmel man, I assume. But I went down there a couple of days ago, and I just rocked up. I didn't actually know anyone there. I just went up and started chatting to people. He was one of the people I ended up chatting to. And you know, when you meet someone and you recognize straight away that they're kind of I don't want to be like, yeah, you gravitate to someone, you know, because they have a good energy. He's I think he's a former boxer, like proper boxer with titles and all that, and just one of the funniest type of people you'll meet. Reminds me of the type of funny sound men who used to be around the place when I was growing up. I've talked about how people have lost their whistle. You don't hear men going around whistling, being crack, you know, a bit of banter with you know, with their kids, friends, and all that kind of stuff. Just like a sound man. And people have lost that essence. And Con Sheehan, who's on Twitter, he's posting about this stuff just as a word, you know, just to mention. Totally hilarious and funny person to be around, and doing great stuff, posting away on Twitter. So it's at Con Sheehan 89 on Twitter. Totally clued into what's going on, obviously. So let's just watch a few more bits of video.
Oh lads, there we go. Back up to the side here. Some Irish fella here is mortified. Won't even look at the camera, won't say nothing. Wants our kids to be fucking raped and stabbed, but don't want their own kids anywhere near this. The hypocrisy is fucking hilarious, boy. It's a fucking joke. Look. Must have been lightning last night there, the camera went up as well.
So just a note on that big camera thing they set up in the middle of the field, the company or whatever, that was set up with like massive, like full, not like tiny little doorbell cameras or whatever. These were full on CCTV cameras propped up in this tower, pointing in like 4 or 5 directions. And I don't know, ran by a generator or something, batteries. But it was in the middle of the field, and as you can see there, it's not having a good time anymore. But what do you call it? What did he say? Lightning, yeah. So maybe lightning struck. I've obviously have no idea what happened to it, but I did see there is some graphics going around that are great, and I just want to show you one in particular. So obviously, like I always say and believe, that I obviously condemn any and all illegal activity, and exclusively promote peaceful political change and a robust debate in the free and open marketplace of ideas. But with that said, there's some amazing, I think it's AI artwork, but it doesn't really matter. This was the idea of potential. Some people were speculating that because there's a large 200-year-old tree in the field in that site in Clonmel, that there's this tradition of like fairy trees in Ireland. They'd be in the middle of a field and farmers wouldn't cut them down because they'd be afraid they'd have a superstition that this is a fairy tree and to cut it down would be effectively a grave sin, a sacrilege, and would bring bad luck on you, like atrocious, horrible luck on you. And so they would never do it. So some people were speculating. I suppose some people, I mean, I'm not sure where I stand in it, but some people truly take that kind of superstition to heart. And so there were people out there, I suppose, who sincerely believed that, for example, the excavator, the digger, was actually set upon potentially by the fairies as like an offensive measure to defend the tree. I don't know. The Con Sheehan believes it could have been lightning. I'm really not sure. But so what else was there on this? I just want to show you that graphic because it's just aesthetically excellent. So, and then this was the final video. Again, it's still not clear to me exactly what transpired in Clonmel today, but anyway. Are we roboting or what? We could be roboting. I'm just going to close the previous windows because I don't need them. Okay, try now. I don't think there's a whole pile of substance to this video anyway. Okay, well, it doesn't look like I'm roboting yet. That's good news. You know what, that video basically, what it amounts to is one of the lads just saying that the workers who had been on site temporarily eventually left. Now, whether that's where they they went away with their tails between their legs because they were demorals, didn't want to drink the soup, or whether they didn't want to mess with the local community, or whether they were just finished their work. I don't know. But so inconclusive what's going on there. But one thing is clear is that the sites are being interrupted, we'll say, in various different ways depending on the community, and it's being delayed. And I suppose we'll look at what happened in Ballyogan. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, because that was mad. There was way more electric than what happened, at least today, in Clonmel. I did a video edit. There was loads of videos going around from today, and I just basically downloaded 4 or 5 of them and took, like, usually a video 2 minutes long, it's got like highlights in it, you know. So I took like 5-10 seconds from each of them and put them together, compilation. I think this will tell you the whole day's, it'll give you the whole thing, and it's very short, of the kind of what happened there. So yeah, I suppose we'll go through it. Hopefully this plays.
300 men going in here right in front of the school. Look, a whole lot of them. Scum. Guards backing them all the way. And a big huge was go home! Scum! Fucking dirt, dirt!
Not today! Look at them! The bus driver's an Irish man himself!
No men in this country.
Here, I agree with that.
These men are dangerous people. We don't want them in our country. They should get the fuck out and leave.
Unvetted men.
Sorry about that.
Look at all that. Fuck yes.
Keep going!
Look at these cunts. Way more. Look at them. Loads of them. Look at this. Oh my God. Look at all them faces.
So yeah, that was that. That was mad, wasn't it? If you were paying attention. Just, you notice as well that, and this is no disrespect to Clonmel or Doneraile or any of these kind of things. There's other ones as well. I'll mention that. So there's been 4 that have been in some way delayed or stopped, depending on how you define it. And to varying extents. We have Doneraile and Cork. We have Cool in County Westmeath. We have Clonmel, Tip, and we have Ballyogan and Dublin. But again, Newtown, Mount Kennedy put up a hell of a struggle. Loads of places have. It's yet to see what's going to happen in Clonmel or anywhere else. But one thing you definitely notice in Dublin is that there is way more capacity to fight back against these things. There's theories on this, I suppose. I won't get into all of them, but obviously a city has a greater amount of people that can be drawn from at any given moment. Big local communities, big, like, old Dublin communities, where there's a state after a state after a state, and one quick phone call can have people coming quickly, and it could be old people, it could be middle-aged people, but you largely see it's young people, known in Ireland as young fellas, right, who are sprightly enough. And so very quickly you could have 200 people show up at a place, just a bit of word goes around. And then they also have this don't give a fuck energy more. I don't know why. You could speculate on it, but they sort of they don't like hide behind the curtains a little bit, saying like, oh, it's just about the numbers or the passports aren't checked. You saw that video. I mean, the amount of fuck you and this and that on camera, not just on camera, but on their own camera. Like, it's not like they were caught on camera. They're posting it themselves. They don't care. They just don't care. It's unvarnished. Do you know what? I'm supposed to be Mr. allegedly far right actor, agitator, or whatever it is, right? And it's funny because I'm way more tiptoey than these people are. It's gas, right? I'm much more reserved and careful, and than these people are just go straight out with it. And it kind of got me thinking a little bit. Is there more video on this? No. So yeah. So I consider my video the super video. I put it all together. But like, I don't know if you were paying attention to it, but there's a lot of things in that video that maybe 5-10 years ago, if I had seen it, I would have thought, because I've always been a reasonable enough person, I would have thought, I'm not just going to condemn all these people as bad, evil, or fascist far right. But what I will say is that the idea of like throwing the finger up at these migrants and kids being like, get them out, that's a thing. Or as Ballyhogan says, no. You know, the average Antifa or hyper liberal will look at that and sort of recoil and think, oh my God, it's like a youth movement from a political regime. And it's these kids are dragged into this dark movement and their innocence, oh, they don't know what they're saying, and something like that. Now, of course, kids, it's very natural. It's just parents who came with their own kids. Kids are going to hear what their parents say, agree with it. That's across the board. Same with the transgender or 9-year-old or whatever. It's not the same at all, but you get what I mean. Like a lefty can hardly accuse right wingers of, you know, having kids get dragged into their own political agenda, you know, needless to say. But there might be a part of me, not the softer, but the more naive side of me might in the past have said, well, you know, it's not ideal, I suppose, you know, because it's not that I feel like it's the wrong thing. I believe in it, like get them out. But it's a very heightened adult sort of thing, you know, this sort of it's not just your average politics. It's not just like, oh, let's clean up the river and save the fish or something like that. It's aggressive sort of in both directions, in all directions. It's a heightened political atmosphere in a sense. And so you think, you know, there's that, and then there's the woman giving the finger and people are saying, oh, you know, scum, dirt, all that. And you might think, oh, here's another angle you could take on it. And this would be the wrong angle, but you could say, I would have said this about 2 or 3 years ago. It's the regime who are responsible for this. If I was offered to go to this country that was way better than Ireland and I could get free this and free that, maybe I'd be tempted to go, you know. Maybe. So like you can only blame our own government, our own regime. These people are just getting caught up in it, whoever they are, and just naturally taking advantage of what's there. But I don't really believe that anymore. I think the time for that has come and gone. It is the fault of the government. It's the fault of the regime. But these people are coming in from countries. I said this earlier in the stream. They know full well what's going on. They know how dispossessed we are. They know that they can, if you're a Ukrainian, for example, you can be a millionaire and get a free house. And then a guy 100 meters down the road from you can be living piss poor, basically living in a car, but working and not able to afford a house, and they don't get the free house, even though the Ukrainian guy's a millionaire, because it's not means tested. So it's like, what kind of apartheid, slave plantation, colonialism is that? I mean, it's obscene. And that's for Ukrainians, but the same is true for asylum seekers. Asylum seekers immediately claim asylum or apply for it or get leave to remain. It's all the same bullshit. They come here and they say the magic words, and a whole suite of rights and benefits opens up to them that aren't available to us. I can't go in and just say a magic word. They'll say, no, you're Irish. So it's at least a two-tier society where Irish people are second, third, fourth class citizens. And these people know that full well. They know Irish people en masse don't want this happening, and we're ran by an oppressive thing. And they're here thinking, there was a video a few weeks ago, you may or may not have seen it, of a guy in Mountjoy Square Park in Dublin being interviewed by like that Polish vlogger guy who's great. I say Polish, he's foreign Eastern European, something like that. And he's casually interviewing this guy who claims to be from Afghanistan, might be from Pakistan, doesn't matter. And he's sitting there with his legs folded in the park in the middle of the day, right? And he's like, he's shooting the shit. He's just like, yeah, so how many kids do you have? And he goes, oh, I have like 6, and they're young, and I'm just hanging out here. Yeah, I'm staying somewhere. And then Iran says, so what's the hope now? What are you doing? He's like, well, you know, hopefully I get house, and then I bring the kids over. What? You know, like just casual, like no thing of like, what about Irish people don't get a house like that? You know, they can't just, there's working Irish people who have their own kids and they have to live in the small little bedroom of their mom's house, and they're working, you know, like why should they not get the house? Do you not feel bad? The example I gave of there was some Elysium country I could move to where I had all these things I might be tempted to, anyone could be tempted to. But if I got there and when the bus arrived, there were people picketing, and I looked at the media and I looked at the vibe in the country, and I saw that the people who were from that place were being totally ran roughshod over. And I was there as this kind of battering ram. I know that I, on a purely principled basis, would say I don't want to be here. First off, I don't feel welcome, and I fair enough. But I just don't. I don't want to take part in that. I'm going home. This is not right. This is unjust. I wouldn't want to be, you know, even something like clearing native people off their land in South America with a bulldozer or something like that. It's just something I would never want to be involved in. I don't want to destroy people's heritage and their dignity, and their way of life. So this idea that like, oh well, these are just cogs in the wheel as well. It's like, no, they are going in now and they're getting their free stuff, and they know they're overwhelming this country, and they're looking at Irish people like we're bugs. I'm speaking generally here. A lot of them will look in this kind of bemused way at these local tribes people who are shaking their fist at a bus and think, well, I know that the government is on my side. I have this posh liaison officer from South Dublin, an NGO person who told me about the far right who are marginal and and we really care about you and you're the future of Ireland. And they hear all this stuff, like, and they know that we're becoming a minority in our country. They're not dumb. So again, and they know they're taking the piss. A lot of them have been living in London the last 6 years, etc., etc. And they know that they're holding on to their own heritage. They might never even bother learning to speak English. They might go back home when they go, oh, I want some real Algerian food. I'm going to go home for a few weeks because I have a free house anyway. I'm building up spare money with Nixers. I'm going to go home when I want to, and I have my Algeria here. And then I can go back to Ireland for the Gibbs, and I can bring all my family here as well, and they can get on the same thing. And then I have Ireland, which is this cow to be milked. But I also have Algeria, my own nation state that I care about deeply and would hate if this was happening to my country. So, this whole letting them off the hook because it's the regime's fault, which it is, that's not good enough. And insofar as Irish people, you might say, oh, Irish people are crossing the line now where they're getting directly throwing the finger up to these people. And even the kids are absorbing it and saying, oh, we don't want these men here, fuck off. Well, they don't care about Aisling Murphy in general. They don't care about our safety. They don't care about, when they hear about racism, the worst sin ever from the NGOs, they don't care about racism against Irish people. What could be more racist than dispossessing a nation of their own homeland? So I think I don't really care anymore when it's a little bit, it's not PG rated, the kind of the reception, I just don't care personally. That's just me. So that's kind of that. I mean, I could just leave it there, lads. I've gotten to this thing where I tend to go on too long anyway. 47 minutes. Yeah, I might leave it there. Have I talked enough about this stuff? Oh yeah, so there is more actually, even on this subject. So the reason this obviously matters, like stopping this in Ballyogan today and Clonmel sort of semi-stopping it, putting it on ice for a while, same in Cool and same in Doneraile, Derek lies down there. Like, some people might say, well, you go back and forth, like maybe they'll come back with the riot squad, or they'll come back at the dead of night. They'll sneak it in. They mightn't as well. They mightn't. And at the very least, it's delayed. And what you do effectively is sort of, by stopping these things or even just delaying them, it's like putting some kind of stopper over a hose, something like that. I can't quite think of the right analogy, but where you create a pressure buildup and a backlog, which affects the structure of the hose. It affects the tap or faucet or whatever that it's plugged into, where you might break the actual seals in between the nuts of the body of the tap. And it could go all the way back. It could end up sort of affecting the integrity of the system that you're backing it up on. And I feel like that's a very valid theory of mine. I said years ago on a podcast with, I think, Morgoth or someone like that. It's one of the, sometimes you say something and it sticks to you. I've always believed it, and it turns out I'm vindicated, I think. That I said, this is in like 2018, I said, we can't fight them at a national level. We're not going to have some like overnight have some populist political revolution. We're not going to overturn the EU or the globalist order, or Dáil Éireann is a hard thing to deconstruct, but what we can do is fight them fight them at the level we can peacefully, which is from the town level out. That's exactly the term I used back then. I said, we need to fight them from the town level out, from the town back to Dublin, back to Brussels, back to London and New York, or whatever. But the only place you can start is what's in front of you. And if you do it in one town and another town and another town, you create that pressure backlog, and that effect on the integrity of their own structure. And what you also do is, if you stop a couple of centers or even delay them for a significant period of time, it means that they have to do what they didn't want to do, which is go to another place doubled up with migrants, and they're all Nigerian, right? It's not Ukrainian supermodels or whatever. Yeah, they're all like Nigerian men, rejects from other places, from City West or whatever. And they're bringing in 700 of them to this small, wily little town. And the towner, even the most like plugged out person in that town, is going to recognize how abominable that is. And it's going to inspire them and get them really interested in it. I'm trying to think of the right word. It's going to rev them up. And in order, so instead of that town getting 80 people, which, maybe they would have gone to sleep about, now they're getting 500 because the state had to, because bear in mind, there were like 5 or 6 bus coaches going into Ballyogan today in Dublin that had to be turned around. Now, some logistics person somewhere who planned to put those people in, and as far as they were concerned that morning, there was no big protest movement that had formed blockading the site. As far as they were concerned, we'll send the buses out, they'll get going, no one will notice, and by the time they do, the migrants are in there. And that's the rule of thumb, is that once they're in, they're in. So they're like, we're just going to do that, and we have however many, 300, let's say, a few hundred. They're going to go in there, and they'll go to bed there tonight, and their new little toothbrushes are ready, and breakfast for the morning, catering, the whole thing is ready. And so it's this operational nightmare that's a fiasco across the country. But hey, here's 300 sorted out, another 300 sorted out. Now that one, let's say in Dublin, has so all of a sudden it was fine, and then 2 hours later it's gone tits up, it's over. So what the fuck, sorry for the language, but like, what the fuck are we going to do with these 300 now tonight? I mean, we're trying to get Clonmel online, we haven't even got the site ready for that. They're already out there trying to stop it, and all eyes are on it, Ireland, everywhere. And now the one that we did have ready in Dublin, that's gone as well. So what do we do? Go back tomorrow, liaise with the guards, try and get the pepper spray and the dogs and the water cannons. And how long is that going to take? Is it going to work? Is it going to inspire a mass resistance even beyond that? Like, so whether you look at an individual centre that, oh, well, we tried to resist it and it went in, like Newtown and Kennedy. If you were to turn around to yourself and say, oh, well, it's futile then. I mean, that's what an ops team person for the iPass system would love to hear. They'd love to hear that. Oh, great. Okay, they've given up. They've sort of crumbled in on themselves. What they don't want to hear is that the idea that, like, well, yeah, even if, okay, us as the resistance, even if you get one over on us and you defeat us, to great political cost. Newtown, Mount Kennedy, the legitimacy that was taken off the state for that. They got their people in, but a Pyrrhic victory. Look how much they lost internationally and nationally. I mean, everyone saw that. So again, it's a mixed bag. But for everyone, they'd much rather, or they would hate to hear that, like, our side of things would take basically a defeat like Newtown, Mount Kennedy, and say, no bother, we'll see at the next one. We're going to hold it up forever, or as long as we can. We will cause every kind of problem, every kind of delay, legally, peacefully, every sort of hiccup possible for you. So your whole thing just starts to crumble, and again, the pressure starts going in the wrong directions. It creates more blowback for you, and the whole thing just starts to blow up on itself, like the hose just bulging out and, getting dicey. That's where you actually can have an effect. So again, it's always worth pushing back on these things. Even one night, one day it got delayed, would be something, and hopefully much more than that for all these places. But again, you're seeing more. You're seeing workers refusing or not happy to work on it. You're seeing more people in towns and suburbs and city areas protesting against it. Everyone's becoming aware, and the government don't want to stop. Even if they stop now, the amount that they have already here would create this big bulge in the hose pipe, where they're struggling to sort it all out. So again, the resistance is not futile, it's essential, and it's so effective, I think, no matter what happens in any individual center. That's just what I believe. I had some more stuff. I might leave it there. I think that's let's see what else I have written down. Yeah, that's one subject. Nice, neat subject. Every time I decide to go on instead of stopping, I regret it. Because I always say to myself, no, you had one subject there, it was kind of clean. And then you went on a bit too much, and you could have just gone, I can be back tomorrow, I might be doing something else tomorrow, actually. You'll find out. I'll be doing something all right, but it might not be the usual. So I'll leave it there. I don't have super chats. I tried to do my thing. I would love to, obviously love super chats. Who doesn't? And I would also like to read comments. It's a nice, it's a nice way to wrap it up. But I don't, so we'll work on that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be back one way or another tomorrow night with more to talk about. I appreciate you joining me as always. Good night. Take care. Ihawa.